Offensive Rookie of the Year. I want to pick Jaxson Smith-Njigba. I really,
Oh,
really
that was gonna
do.
be my sneaky guy. That was
I
gonna be my
really,
sneaky guy.
I kind of want to. I know you guys be hating on Metcalf. Um,
Yeah.
Tyler Lockett. I still stand by that Metcalf pick. But
It's
it's
a good. It's definitely the right pick. I think it's the right pick in terms of I mean
yeah,
the talent, the popularity, the getting off the
yeah.
bus factor. It makes sense. You already
Getting
have
off the
Jefferson.
bus.
Yeah,
The
you have
getting off
Jefferson.
the bus factor.
You have Jefferson and Kelsey there too already.
Dang it, that's no, that definitely was in our evaluation. His fit when he gets off the bus, just
That video. It would you have picked him if you'd never seen that video of him jumping to catch that football?
probably not,
Which that is
probably
that
not.
is real, right?
People are saying it's real. I don't know. Some say it's fake. I don't know. Sources are all over the place about it. We'll have
Yeah,
to
I
see. He
haven't got
did
it.
catch Buda
Haven't gotten
Baker
a
on that
like
one
a
interception.
definite answer on it.
Um, I don't know. Caught Buda Baker on that one interception. I don't know. But Jason, I do hope. I really hope he gets it. But it's probably going to be Bijan.
Bijan seems like a hard
Yeah.
person to pass on. The Bryce Young case. So Bryce Young is second right now. I just think again with the quarterbacks, if a quarterback is going to have a good season, I think the awards people are going to tend to vote for the good quarterback. So I was just really impressed with Bryce Young's composure all preseason. There were times when the line didn't necessarily block for him. The skills group is not the strongest skills group in the league, but I think the team is good enough, and I think Bryce Young is. Uh, I think his adjustment is going to be a lot quicker than a lot of these other rookie quarterbacks. I think he's going to step in and produce right away. But I mean, like we were saying earlier, I think Bijan's going to be in that conversation for best running back in the league right away. I think he's gonna be fantastic. I think Arthur Smith's going to use him properly. I mean, they picked him eighth overall when they didn't really like need to. They didn't really need a running back. Patterson's still there.
Yeah.
Algier had a good enough season. Were their quarterbacks still on the? Well, I guess just Willingness at that point. But you know, they invested highly in Bijan, and we literally know now at this point like how these NFL teams view and value their running backs. And you're telling me that the Falcons aren't going to give the ball a lot to their number 8 overall running back, and Arthur Smith, the running back guy, is not going to do that. So, I mean, if Bijan's special, he's going to have an amazing season. They're the old, other, great comparable rookie running back seasons. Earl Campbell obviously won Offensive Rookie of the Year and Offensive Player of the Year as a rookie in 78. Eric Dickerson had 2,000 scrimmage yards and 20 touchdowns as a rookie. Edwin James had 2,000 scrimmage yards, 17 touchdowns as a rookie. Marcus Allen finished third in MVP voting. Barry Sanders, 1,700 yards and 14 touchdowns. So, rookie running backs just coming in and being amazing is not out of the question. I think Bijan is right there. There was a parlay that I had split into FanDuel, and I think it was like Mahomes, Bijan, and Parsons all to win their awards. And the odds were insane to just take all the chalk guys. And I feel like Bijan would be like one of the most least likely to mess that parlay up just because I think usage, young running backs, talent, I think it's all there. So I think Bijan, I again hate to go chalk with the picks, but it's hard. It's hard not to see which one of these guys comes in. But that's why the JSN case is so interesting because of all the receivers, he's the most pro ready, and he has a good quarterback on an offense that could potentially be really good. So I think JSN 21-1 is is pretty interesting. I think I'm putting him on my ballot now. I think you've talked me into him as a ballot guy. I think
Yeah.
Bijan, JSN, Bryce Young as a top three, something like that.
It looks like people are raving about JSN. His wrist was hurting, and he's still catching balls left and right. He does have a little bit of a nagging injury, but Pete Carroll said he's doing well after that second straight practice. So I think he should be good for the season. And I mean, we saw him in college. He's a baller. He knows how to produce. And on a team where he can be easily the third wide receiver, there isn't a lot of pressure. He could, I think, compared to Ohio State, where he was kind of the guy, I think he can still put up crazy stats. He still put up good stats. The problem is he's not going to be able to put up as big a stats as one um,
John.
Mr. Bijan. And yeah, I think JSN was actually hurt this last year, it looks like. But sophomore year,
Well, hurt with quotes, I think.
yeah, who knows? His sophomore year, this year everyone goes crazy about, over 1,600 yards, 9 touchdowns. That's just stupid in 13
Pull up
games.
those. Can you pull up those Rose Bowl stats? Was he over 300 yards in that game? I think he might have been.
So, that's
He's
still a lot of
21,
yards.
20, 21 to 1 right now to win offensive rookie of the year. Jordan Addison's right in front of him, 16 to 1. I just think year one, JSN's just going to be ready. And he's a wide receiver 3. Like, he is playing with
Yeah,
Lockett and Metcalf. Like, he's going to have the weaker of the cornerbacks guarding him.
for
And
sure.
a lot of teams were probably looking at him and thinking about bringing him as a wide receiver 1. And they got him in there as the wide receiver 3. What about Hyatt, 50 to 1? I'm scrolling the odds right now, trying to see about another long shot guy. If he's the wide receiver 2 there in New York, the speed, could he potentially put up the stats? Is Daniel Jones a good enough quarterback? Because again, with Addison, he's going to be with Cousins as well.
Yeah.
Johnston, I don't know. I guess you got Gibbs on the Lions as another option, but yeah, I think we're both in agreement. Bijan is going to be amazing this season.
Yeah, last 5 games that he played in that sophomore year for JSN, 240 yards, 139, 105, 127, and then 347 yards against Utah, 3 touchdowns, average 191 yards in those last 3 games. So me, college pedigree. These teams, there's no mistakes. It's very rare that there's mistakes on these teams, and especially a team like Ohio State. And so, I think he's a baller, and I think it's going to show up. And especially like you mentioned, third wide receiver. There's and Lockett, a veteran guy. I mean, and Metcalf, very flashy, big guy. So a lot of distractions for a team that's playing a defense that's playing this team. A lot of stuff they have to worry about, even if they're not necessarily the top level wide receiving core. It's probably one of the better ones in the league, and I'm really excited to see how good Jason is his first year on this team. And he definitely seems like a more possession kind of wide receiver, more of a not necessarily super deep or super short, limited range, but more a middle intermediate. Guy gets open, can throw it into tight spaces with him. And, Geno Smith seems like a quarterback pretty well fit for him. We'll see if he's going to take that next step this year after, being able to really solidify himself as the guy last year. This year, you can see if he takes more chances. And Jason should get really open, like we mentioned. So, we hope, but Bijan's probably gonna take it because it's Arthur Smith as his coach. So.
Even if Geno is not like taking a step up, I think he'll still be like a pretty competent quarterback this year. I don't think he's necessarily going to be a bad quarterback. And good run game as well. Kenneth Walker, Zach Charbonnet. He's just being in a good offense is going to be good for him. And if a lot of these receivers, I think we've seen a lot of really strong rookie receiver seasons, but Zay Flowers in the Ravens. There's Rashad Bateman's there. Odell's there as well. Johnson, like we already said, Keenan Allen, Mike Williams. Some of these guys are in good offenses, but I just think JSN is going to have a lot of opportunity. I think he's going to produce really well. I think I am eyeballing this Hyatt one as an interesting long shot bet. he's behind your guy Rashee Rice right now. Rashee Rice 40-1, had a couple of drops in the preseason, but I still like him. But Bijan's the favorite, and I think that's right. And I think I'm going chalk back-to-back picks. So is this the first one we both had the same? Both picking Bijan?
Yeah, I think it is. And I think Brett Veach was talking about start as package players. I don't know. I thought he meant a trade package for a second.
That makes sense. I think there's a sneaky chance that we pick the same guy for DP or for the defensive rookie of the year as well.
Yeah, man, I told you I was watching his highlights before we started, and
I think it's the same guy.
There's some other guys close. Christian Gonzalez with the Lions is pretty high up there. Will Anderson,
Patriots,
for some reason, is also high up there. Yeah, I don't know why it says Lions here. I thought he was on the Patriots, but then it says Lions on this thing, so I don't know why.
Who is that?
SBD, yeah, call him out. SBD, sports betting, something. I don't know.
Get your editors in check.
I don't know. But yeah, for some reason, Will Anderson right now seems to be like the top guy. But
he looked fantastic in the preseason. A lot of the advanced numbers really liked him. I think he's going to have a really good season, but I agree with you. I think we're both picking Jalen Carter here. I think is he best defensive player in this class? Yes, but is he already the best defensive player on the Eagles? Is that out of the question? Is he going to come in and dominate right away? I mean,
he could.
And they have Jordan Davis there already. They bring in Nolan Smith, but playing next to other elite edge rushers. Just him being it's like the JSN case on steroids. You're literally putting him in a good defense with good pass rushers. He's going, Hassan Reddick, you're gonna have to choose between Jalen Carter and Hassan Reddick. That's just gonna be, and Jordan Davis and Josh Sweat. It's gonna be a nightmare for offensive linemen. Jalen Carter, probably the highest draft pick of all of those guys. Or I guess, well, probably not because he slid in the draft, but had the potential to be the highest draft pick of any of those guys. His talent's insane. I can't believe the Eagles got him. So his talent is only going to be accentuated by the fact that he's playing next to these. I think he's going to be playing next to these other elite guys. And I think you're going to be watching it and going, holy cow, Jalen Carter is just as good as all of these other All-Pros on this team.
Wow, Will Anderson really ate him alive on that sack.
Yeah,
that's a wild. Poor Skyler. But going back to, I think Jalen Carter, it's just, he's already shown that he can show up, he can be a star among stars. That Georgia team we saw, it was just stupidly loaded. There's a reason they went back-to-back champions. And yeah, he has some off-field issues, which, is going to hang around him for a little bit here. But I think going into the season, if it's just focused on football with the team, they brought back most of their talent. They brought back Fletcher Cox. They brought back, I wrote it down here somewhere. They had 20 free agents going in the offseason. They brought back Brandon Graham on 1 year, Darius Slay as well in the secondary, Nolan Smith, Kilo Rinko, some Georgia guys that they drafted. But they pretty much reloaded on defense. Like you mentioned, Hassan Reddick had a good year last year. And especially with interior defense, when you're watching those highlights, how quickly he was able to shred the offensive line, that's not just even athleticism or strength or speed, which is all of that which you need. But I think one of the most interesting things when you recently listened to Jadeveon Clowney, when you ask him about that year where he was great, he mentioned that it was more of knowing the gaps to be in. And being able to know the game so well and know the rules so well that you know where to bend them. And especially for interior linemen, the gaps just matter so much. You got to know how the offensive line is going to block. You got to know how they're going to move. And I think that's probably one of the minutia parts of football that most of us just don't know because we're not, going to be studying that hard. And it's one of those things that you can see once defensive linemen, especially interior ones, understand it to a point where they can really cheat the system and bend the rules. That's where you see greatness really show up when it's combined with the strength and power and how big Jalen Carter is. And all of him having all that already dominating in college, I think that's going to easily translate into the NFL when he's around veterans who Some of them have won the Super Bowl. Almost all of them have, pretty much been there already. They know what it takes to consistently win. Had a great record last year. So I think he's a great program. Probably the best defensive line in the league, arguably the best defense in the league. And he's just going to make it that much better. I think he's really going to tear it up this next year. And I really can't wait to watch him. Just pretty much, keep reloading this interior D line, which has already been great with Brandon Graham and Fletcher Cox and like these guys who have won him a Super Bowl. He's just going to be, it's just pedigree on pedigree. This is like Real Madrid midfield here. So I really can't wait. I really can't wait to see it this next year because it's just, it's just going to keep on rolling up in Philly, which is why I can't even argue for anyone else. It's just like,
200-1 for actual defensive player of the year. Jalen Carter, is he Lawrence Taylor? Is he that kind of physically dominant? I don't know, and that's good to hear too about like the work ethic stuff because the off-field stuff was part of the reason he slid in the draft, but there was also some interview question. He wasn't necessarily crushing the interviews, and there was some stories coming out from the Georgia side of things where it seemed like there was some, work ethic questions. I don't know if that's necessarily the best way to phrase it, but it seemed like there was sort of some playbook studying type stuff going on. Seemed like the other Georgia, like Jordan Davis, was really like a big sort of mentor to him. So he's there in Philly as well. So that's like just another huge plus. But, he's one of those special defensive players. I think it's worth which something that might come up later where you got like Giannis over in Milwaukee. You got Milwaukee just signing guys to keep Giannis happy. Obviously, that's not Jordan Davis, but Jalen Carter's just insanely talented. He's going to be awesome this year on the Eagles. And Jordan Davis too, didn't really play that much last year. Was sort of stashed behind the rest of these guys. Him just being a guy next to Jalen Carter that's going to make his life easy for him. Jordan Davis, I think, is fantastic in his own right. So those two guys together are going to be dominant. Nolan Smith, the other pass rushers are going to be there. So I think Will Anderson's going to have a solid season. And I think there is, he's a good kid. And I think people kind of like that. And I think there's some stuff there that works in his favor. But I think Carter's dominance. When before the stuff came out, it was hands down he was the number one pick in the draft. It wasn't even a question. Yeah. It was like, oh yeah, he's the best. He's the best player in the draft. What are we even doing here? Slides to 10. So to say this guy's defensive rookie of the year, I think it's a pretty easy pick. Witherspoon on the Seahawks, though, on their depth chart, he's not listed as a starter right now. He's a rookie corner. Not everybody's Sauce Gardner, so he's going to come in and work. He's going to have to work his way back. Joey Porter Jr., 30-1. Brian Brisset, 50-1. I don't know. Jalen Carter plus 550s.
Yeah.
Pretty safe.
Lock it in.
Pretty safe.
Lock it in. Which, the thing is the Eagles are so talented that they can bench him if they need to. Like if he starts acting up, like they got guys who they can easily replace with him, and they've made the Super Bowl and won the Super Bowl with. So they don't need him, which is even another better situation for him. So hopefully they get him acting right because there'll be guys who will definitely test him in that locker room. They're all fighting for the same spots, and a lot of them are actually on 1-year deals. So they gotta they're gonna be fighting for their next contract, and so if Carter is messing around, not really studying and stuff. It's a league. It's a business. They'll tell you. They'll let you know. So
that's great. That's good to point out because that means it's going to be just a crazy year for this Eagles defensive line because that tells you right there. The Eagles kind of already know long term what the plan is here. They got a bunch of young Georgia guys in there. They've also got a bunch of these young older guys who are legends. But again, you got these young guys. They're maybe better. They're cheaper on the rookie contract. Only trending upward. So this might be the one of the only seasons. Well, I guess last year was that season too, but this season might be that last season where we get that intersection of both. They have all of the older talent and all of the younger talent, and they've got like 8 guys they can throw out there and just 2 sets of lines. It's absolutely insane. You're right. This might be the last time we see that. So Jalen Carter in the middle of that, I think it's going to be It's just going to be like in Georgia, like you said. At Georgia, he was the best, most talented player. And guess what? This team is basically the Georgia team. So just run it all back. Run it all back. Jalen Carter's the best.
He is.